And Coca-Cola just refused, that the village can't come in. They're sitting on the village land, and so the village can't come in. So we said, okay, we won't come too. And we joined the big protest in front of the gates. And at the end of it, they had to allow the village community, they allowed us. And then they showed us a nice propaganda film to a village which knows what's happening to its groundwater. 2002 is when this started. By 2004, the Coca-Cola plant was shut in Plachimada. I've written about it in my new movement biography, Terra Viva. Yeah. So, when you ask me about my life has been, sometimes observing, sometimes being invited. In Plachimada, I was invited, The seed invited me. There was no movement at that time. I got off the plane and I said, I'm going to work for seed. And I was working on forests, I was working on water, dams, and I handed it all over to a younger generation of activists. I said, there's enough of you to look after forests and rivers, but no one is thinking of the seed. And the seed is under huge assault. So then I started to work on the seed. And at every point, life is not one-dimensional. And every time I've got into an issue because there's a problem, I've always combined intellectual seeking, legal strategies, and grassroots action. And they give synergy to each other. And you cannot predict which path will work at what time, because one time the legal systems work very brilliantly, another time the grassroots systems work better. At every time, honesty will work. And truth will always work, no matter how much we are dominated by post-truth. I don't think post-truth can make truth obsolete. Makes it more relevant. And it's such a false notion. Developed and developing was false. But the idea that we are an emerging nation is so you don't tell a 10,000-year-old civilization to emerge ho rahe ho. You don't emerge at 10,000 years. Yeah? You're emerging in terms of being fitted into the global economy. But that's not emerging, that's being sucked up. That's being absorbed, That's being made to disappear in your unique civilizational qualities. So the word development and the word growth are two very, very dominant terms. Innovation and invention, growth, development. The vocabulary stops after that. No language after that. Anything you have to do, growth ho raha hai, development ho rahi hai, innovation ho raha hai. But there's no other justification. More species are being protected, there's more water in the world. No. These are the three indicators. So all three are actually misleading and intellectually dishonest. Why are they dishonest? Where was the word? The word growth and development were created around the same time. Now things grow, I put a seed, it's a little mustard seed, it becomes a giant plant. Put an amla, it becomes a giant tree. That is growth. Life self-evolution and self-organized evolution is growth. Growth in economy is taking what society creates and putting it at the service, initially of the military. Growth was created during the war to finance the war. But if I need this much money to repair this thatch, if that money is taken away, this roof will not be repaired. If I need this much labor to repair the village tank, when that's taken away, that village tank breaks. So that is where the decay of civilization starts. Because what should be circulating in society, the wealth created by society, which should be circulating in society, is being extracted. So growth was created to extract wealth of society, to finance the war. But then war got over and it was made permanent. And it was then made the only, you've got to do this for growth. We will have this % growth and that % growth. And what does growth measure? Purely extraction, nothing else. It doesn't measure growth. It measures what you can take away and what you can put in the market. It's only measurable in terms of market and money, whereas growth is about life. And that's why now there's huge movements in the world called regrowth movements. They're really picking up. And now with the European and American crisis of the cost of living, these things are picking up, that we have to somehow, manage life and not keep handing over what we contribute. The definition of growth in the UN systems of account is, if you produce what you consume, you don't produce. So this farm produces nothing, because we consume what we grow. A seed which becomes seed doesn't produce, therefore you have to make a non-renewable seed, then you have growth. Then the non-renewable seed has royalties, and then you have more growth. Yeah? In Delhi, you're having a lot of growth, because everyone's falling sick with respiratory problems. Yeah? Everyone's buying those little gadgets to keep breathing. The sales of air purifiers are shooting up. So growth is taking place. The more the water gets polluted, the more growth takes place. The more the air gets polluted, more growth takes place. The more the food becomes toxic and polluted, the more growth takes place. So the sickness industry is a growth industry. Development, also biological word. Development is the self-evolution of an organism from a seed or an embryo to become the full being it is. Its original is in biology. And it was brought into economics, I think in 48 or 49. And, we became independent in 45. The movement for decolonization was very strong. And one of the calls, a bit like at the Egypt COPs 27, the call is, you must pay for the damages. The damages of 200 years of pollution. That's the big issue. At that time, the big issue was, colonization has left so much poverty, and you must compensate. Huge calls. You owe us this much. You owe Africa this much for slavery and, destruction of the land with plantations. So, 48, 49, 45, war was about to end. In 45 it ended. 44, before it ended, those who realized that the countries were becoming free got together in a hotel in Bretton Woods in New Hampshire. And therefore these institutions that were created at that meeting are called the Bretton Woods institutions. They include the World Bank, IMF, and what later became WTO but was GATT at that time and stayed as GATT till 1995. The World Bank job was to give loans. The IMF and World Bank job together was, when you're in when you're in a debt trap, to rescue with more loans. And the GATT was supposed to be a trading system, and the first declaration of GATT was in Havana, and the old colonized countries said, you extracted so much in trade, now we need a fair trade system, which will have this and this and this and this. Never accepted. The Havana Charter was never accepted. Till the Uruguay round, and the Uruguay round only added 3 things to trade. Trade was there before that. But agriculture was not part of international trade. And because of the wars, the fact that Europe had had such huge food insecurity, they never wanted food to be in the international trading system. The United States by then had created these giant corporations, the Cargills who controlled trade, the Monsantos who controlled the chemicals and seeds. So they just handed over. And there was a Blair House meeting at which the US and America came to an agreement. The US said, accept agriculture, and the Europeans accepted agriculture and free trade. The other was intellectual property rights, expanded to seed and life forms, which is what triggered me to do the work I do. And the third was something called Sanitary and Phytosanitary Agreement. You know, does the word explain anything to you? Just let me, those who don't know about what it means, what does the word suggest to you? These are the laws that Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola wrote about safe food. And fascinating, overnight, small-scale industrial food was declared dangerous for health. And the Indian industry, local cottage industry just disappeared. And industrial food made with toxics was declared safe, because the measure of health was not how healthy is the food, but how hygienic is the production system. Yeah, I remember Brazil. They prevented the. I don't eat meat, but when you eat a chicken, you've got to slaughter it. If you're in a village and you have a wooden table, you slaughter it on a wooden table. Wooden tables made illegal. You had to have a stainless steel table. Small villagers couldn't afford a stainless steel table, went out of business. All the small slaughterhouses of America, England, all shut down under these. And now you have diseases from these giant-sized slaughterhouses. So these three agreements is what captured the food system of the world. The word developed was brought into the economy by the World Bank. And then what was being underdeveloped and what was being developed, being industrialized or not industrialized. So I remember, loans given for plastics, loans given for pesticides, loans given for giant dams. We've had the most sophisticated ancient irrigation systems in this country. Go to Orissa or go to Bengal, every village has 3 or 4 tanks. And they manage it. And all the water needs come from there. You go into dry areas, you go into the Deccan, which is a dry, semi-arid area. There are tank systems that I worked on when I was in Bangalore. 1,000 tanks in link like a necklace. This village uses what it can and the overflow goes to the next and the next and the next and the next. No one uses more than they share. And all of them, thousands of years old, maintained by a very beautiful system of village community labor. Because it's a commons, it belongs to the community, people come together. This is something we'll have to learn. So the word development, we were just chopped into, we are underdeveloped. Why am I these days I'm underdeveloped because I wear a sari, Baba. How can you wear a sari? When young kids come up to me in the airport, are you a nun? I said, why do you say I'm a nun? You're wearing a sari. I said, only Mother Teresa's people wear saris. The rest of the nuns have habits. And so, you go to the villages where women are wearing saris. You go to the street cleaners. Every street cleaner is wearing a sari. The women on these big construction sites wearing saris. But it's underdeveloped to wear a sari. It's underdeveloped to have food cooked by hand. Hands are becoming dangerous. So growth created for war. Development created to continue colonization after colonization.